So here we are with another episode of A Natter That Matters, because of course all conversations count. And today's conversation I've been very excited about because we've got a boy. Not often is it that they're brave enough to come and have a natter with me. So hi Andy Gibney, welcome to my Natter That Matters. How are you doing?
Doing very well, thank you.
Good. And I suppose if you're listening and watching this, you might wonder why I've allowed a boy. Well, I've known Andy for many years. In fact, I'm trying to work out how many. I reckon it might be about 14 years. I'm trying
Something
to work
like that. Yeah, getting on for that.
out. Did we meet at the FSB originally? I can't even remember where we met originally.
Either there or EC.
Yeah,
One of those two places.
But the reason that I think that you're going to enjoy listening to Andy is because he's done such a lot of things in his life. He's achieved a lot. He's been through a lot. Yeah. So rather than me say it all, why don't you say it? Andy, why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay, so my name's Andy Gibney. I've run a number of businesses over 30 years, and the thing that I've stayed with the longest is I teach martial arts for a living, and I've trained in martial arts for 42 years. And I turned 60 this year, so the fact that I've outlived my dad, that's a good thing. And in terms of, well, it's good for me, not so good for him. And I mean, I feel pretty good for a 60-year-old. Let's put it that way.
You're looking pretty well. I mean, a Zoom doesn't make us look that attractive, does it? We've just had that conversation, but look pretty well. Well, and of course you keep yourself fit, don't you? I suppose that's the trick. You get out there, you move around a lot. I think as I'm getting older, I'm realizing Zoom doesn't help. I'm sitting a lot, and I always sat a lot anyway, but I'm sitting even more now, just focused on one part. And actually looking at ourselves all the time is not healthy either, is it? It's just really not.
This is a standing desk as well. I learned that lesson.
Yeah, I've got one of those, Andy. Guess how many times I've used it?
I don't know. Twice.
Yes, big fat 0. Yeah.
Oh, right. Well, this is one of those little hydraulics. You just lift it up. But I've known people who've got these expensive ones where it's all electric and you press this. No, this was like 150 quid, I think, and it's just worked brilliantly. And
I've even got a thing that goes over my treadmill. And how many meetings have I had whilst just ambling along gently on my treadmill? None. I think it's going to be the mission for next year, though, Andy. So you've got permission to chase my ass on that, because I know you probably it's important. So you don't just train and teach martial arts, do you? You've got some history around this as well. I'm just going to mention the word silver and see where we go with that.
Oh, medals.
Oh, medals. Yeah, just medals. Yeah.
Okay, so I went through a time in my life where I did 6 years of stick fighting, which is basically you wear armor, they wear armor, and you have a rattan stick and you hit each other over the head for 3 1-minute rounds. And you can hit, when you get really good, you're 6 hits a second. I was British team captain. I fought in British team on 5 tournaments, and I got to 2 world finals and got 2 world silver medals. When it was difficult to get silver medals, it's a bit easier now. When I was fighting, there was 21 categories across everything. There's now 130 categories, so they split it down and I really enjoyed it for a time, and it seemed to make a lot of sense to me. It made precious little sense to anybody else, but it made a lot of sense to me, and it was something that I enjoyed. And it was full contact, but you were pretty safe, really. I broke that little finger and I broke that thumb, but other than that, that was it, really. And it was something that I was very passionate about, and I've realised as I'm getting older, I'm definitely on the spectrum somewhere, because once I get into something, like properly, really weird, scary into things, and that helps me to accumulate a lot of knowledge. So as Robbins often talks about, once you immerse yourself in something, you pick up a lot of stuff, and it retains it. And I do have an excellent memory for dates and stuff like that. So my fear of old age is is dementia, really. Anything around the degeneration of the mind. So about 8 years ago, I decided, just as an exercise, I would remember all the kings and queens of England from 1042 to the present day, and I can still do that. And it's just pointless, other than it's a mental exercise that I like to do.
I love it. I haven't got a clue, by the way, so I have not got a clue. But I was impressed with your knowledge of Elvis when the Elvis film came out, and I posted, "Oh, has anybody been to see it?" Like the knowledge you had about Elvis was just like, "Whoa!" Like this is so. Oh my God, you even got an Elvis t-shirt. That's freaked me out slightly, unless you always wear an Elvis t-shirt.
No. Well, I got that because I thought it balanced out my Genesis hoodie. I wanted to get an ABBA hoodie, so I went to see ABBA Voyage last night, And I saw this hoodie that I wanted. It was 45 quid. I thought that'll do me. Went to the merch stall and they went, no, you've got to get that one online. You can get this one for 70 quid. I was like, bugger off. So I ordered it while I was there and it'll be here in a couple of days. So
Crazy. Do you know, we had this conversation earlier, didn't we? Crazy how some companies make it really hard to spend money. I've got some of my plugins that need updating on my website, and I can't seem to be able to pay them. They've had to refer it to their account. They're an online company who are helping me take online payments and orders. They can't get theirs right. It's like, it's not good, is it really? So yeah. So tell us what you do. So tell us about your business journey, Andy, because that's what this podcast is really all about.
So when I just turned 30, I'd moved to London. I was living in Hackney, not the most salubrious part of the world at the time. It's not so salubrious now either, to be honest, but it's better than it was. And I'd got this job. I was running a gym for a friend of mine. Anyway, the friend of mine didn't like my approach to work very much. He sacked me after 3 weeks. I was like, oh, bloody hell. I'm in London. I've moved, left my life up here, moved there. And so I found a job as an insurance agent working in Westminster. So I had this lovely journey every day. In fact, I did part of it yesterday because I went to Liverpool Street, catch the bus, Hackney, horrible, get to Westminster, bloody lovely every day. But on that journey, I realised how much fear there was with the amount of, just as a city, it's quite a cold city. It seems a bit better these days, to be honest, but it did seem very cold at the time. I read some horrible stories in the Evening Standard, and I thought, well, there's one thing I'm good at, is martial arts. And I had a friend of mine who'd encouraged me to do that. And I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll set up a 2-hour self-defense course that I could sell to corporates. So rather than do 10 weeks, I can distill that into 2 hours, and I can do it in 15 minutes now. But you, for value, you can get 2 or 3 hours out of it. And that was the basic idea. And then I would build the martial arts school. So I came back. I had 4 students. Took £5 on the first, or £10 on the first night, I think. £6 in rent. So I made £4. That was my day, first day. And it built from there. And the martial arts has gone up and down and up and down. And I got involved in that journey we were talking about with the stick fighting. And then around 2002, I realised that I wanted to learn more about the way the mind works, particularly because I got 2 silver medals rather than gold medals, but I had trained people to be world champions. I thought, hang on, there's something not right, not clicking here. Let me learn more. So I went and did my NLP practitioner with Richard Bandler and Paul McKenna, which was a really popular thing at the time, and Michael Brain. I did that. I went and did Tony Robbins, did Unleash the Power Within. I did that 2 or 3 times. And I was training with a guy called Marshall Rosenberg in a thing called nonviolent communication, which to this day is one of the most interesting things I've ever learned. I spent 2.5 years with those guys. And I would relate it to Tony Robbins. Is if you were talking about psychological learnings, Tony Robbins is like a Thai boxing school, like crash bang wallop. The NLP would be much more like the Filipino martial arts, quite cerebral. And then Marshall Rosenberg would be like Tai Chi. Very not. If you went to their camps, it was always vegan lunches. Ate a lot of lentils on those courses, and but I loved what they did. They had a very smart question. I heard him on Radio 5, serendipity and all those things. And I heard him on the radio being interviewed, and he had this question. He said, who is making your life less than wonderful? I thought, that's an elegant question, isn't it? Not who's pissing you off, not who drives you around the twit. Who is making your life less than wonderful? Presupposition, you have a wonderful life. Who's making it less than wonderful? Often it's you, because you don't speak honestly from the heart. And he talked about the way that we speak in the terms of the jackal and the giraffe. And the jackal was the thing that we learn at school. You're ugly, you're fat, you're disgusting. That's what we learn as kids. And when we're upset with someone, we tell them what they are. We don't tell them what we want. And so, whereas the language of the giraffe, which has the biggest heart of any land animal, we explain our feeling at this moment. I feel very sad because... and you tell them exactly what the reason is. Now they might say, well, they might come back to you and go, well, that's because you're a miserable little twat. And you immediately you recognize that as jackal language. You put your giraffe ears on and you go, I can see that I've upset you in some way. How could that be? And you have to learn it in a very formal way at first. And it's difficult then to put it into your methodology. And I was a good jackal speaker. I'm brilliant, especially when I'm driving. I'm awesome jackal speaker. Arsehole, get out of my way, all that sort of stuff. But But I
Road
like
rage.
to.
Perimenopause, Andy. It's off the chart. It's not, I'm literally an anger machine in a car. It's just sits there thinking, shit, I've got to fight. I'm like, no, it's fine. I won't get out. If anybody got out.
So that was it really. That was the beginning of the journey for me. And I was at a big event he did in East London not long after I started learning this stuff. And any questions? A guy puts his hand up. He says, "I don't know how to cope when I'm angry." And Marshall Rosenberg, he's passed away now, but he said, "You know, when you're angry, you're emotionally dead." And I was like, "Whoa, bloody hell, that's heavy." And I was going out with a lovely lady called Anne-Marie at the time, and I phoned her in the break, and she went, "I don't know what you've learned, but you sound different already." And that was like I had a morning of it, and it changed me. But then experience changes you as well. So that was that. So then I learned how to cure phobias, and for 12 years I was a therapist. I used to help people with phobias. That led me to helping people with depression and anxiety. And eventually I found it was too wearing on me. I was working with clients. I wasn't smart enough to work with clients that I could help properly. I was just taking the money, and as a result of that, it just wore me down. And that led me to start to write books. Really, I got to 50 and thought, right, it's time to write your first book. So I did. I wrote my first book, and the second one, blah blah blah. That led to publishing. I did publishing for 8 years. That was going really, really well. And then I got married, and my wife passed away, and I decided, right, now is the time to do only the things I want to do, and publishing wasn't it. So here I am today.
Surprised about the publishing because you all seem to love it. You're definitely a wordsmith. In fact, I remember being at a networking event and you describing yourself as that, which I suppose you would if you're selling book publishing, I suppose. Yeah, you always seemed really passionate about that, and obviously the books you wrote. And I remember one launch I went to, which was particularly fun. So yeah, so how did you know that you didn't love that? I know that's a weird question, but how did you know?
Because she died, and what had happened was I had this routine, and the routine was Kirsty had a thing called complex regional pain syndrome, where she'd had her arm broken as nerve damage in her right arm, and she had a neurotransmitter fitted into her neck. It was a very complicated operation, which went wrong the first time. She's ever done twice, which basically unzipped her neck here, and so had an electrode put into her neck. She had a battery put into her chest, and it was supposed to control the pain. Anyway, it didn't work properly until 6 days before she died, which is ironic in itself. And she had this condition, and she had PTSD because she'd been through some horrible relationships. And I'd known her for some time previous before we eventually started seeing each other. And so the routine was, we got a dog, her dog. She'd walk the dog. I would run the dog. She would walk the dog. I'd go to the gym at 5:30 or whatever it was. Be in the office for 7:30. Do my 90 minutes until 9 o'clock. Caroline would come into the office. We'd do to about 4 or 5 o'clock, depending if I was teaching that day. And that was a routine. And there was lots of ups and downs in that. And had I understand my numbers better, like I do now than then, I'd have thought maybe it's not going quite as well as I thought. But the last 3 months was tremendous. In the January of 2022, Caroline and I used to laugh so much because there was so much money coming in. It just made us, we just thought, all this struggle we've gone through, where's this all coming from? And what we also realized is a lot of authors don't have a realistic expectation of what their book is going to do. And that would cause a problem. And I would teach people marketing skills, and I'd always say there's 4 elements to writing a book. There's the writing of it, which is the easiest bit. There's the publishing of it, which is all the bit that we did. There's the marketing of it and the selling of it. Those 4 bits. If you don't work on all 4 areas, your book will fail. Simple as that. And they wouldn't. So it goes back a bit to what I was getting with the clients I was working with as a therapist. They weren't putting the work in, and that was that. So I'm putting all this work in, doing my routine, getting my routine. Came to Tuesday the 22nd of March, go there. Kirsty had she wasn't feeling very well the day before. I left her asleep in bed, go off to work, come back at 10 to 4, come back, she died in her sleep, like 6 hours before. So here I am working with these people who some of those people I didn't have that much faith in, but they were paying us good money and you're doing the job. And I just thought, this is bollocks, actually. This is nonsense. And the following day, I walked the dog. It was my turn to walk the dog. Dogs like routine. You've got dogs, you know that they love routine. So I walked him. First thing, he's pulling. And I'm like, shit, I didn't realise he was such a bugger in the mornings. He's so strong. That must have really hurt her arm in the mornings. Why didn't I know that? And then there's an element of, well, you know, you haven't done your job right as a husband now. You haven't looked after your wife. Why didn't you know? So one of the books that's in my mind is about doing things properly in the way forward. Is walk the dog. The title is Walk the Dogs Together, because all those conversations are so abstract when you walk a dog. You know, all sorts of stuff comes up. Some of it's really important. Sometimes you can be talking about world events, and sometimes you're talking about your favorite cheese. You know, it's as random as that. And we did walk the dog together sometimes, but in my mind, I was doing the work and she was helping, being a bit 50s almost. You know, she was at home because she couldn't work properly because of her arm. And blah. So when she passed, my thought was, why do stuff that you don't believe in? Pointless, absolutely pointless. You know, I've missed time with this woman. That's not to say there's much I could have done about her passing, to be honest. You know, there were lots of complications around why that happened, but ultimately, you know, the pain that I felt was never going to be assuaged by any amount of money ever. And then I had to deal with lots of stupid stuff with the funeral directors and insurance companies and banks and all that sort of stuff. And I had 6 months really where I struggled tremendously. And then this is sort of relevant, I suppose, but this one night I was teaching and a song came on, and it was the New Radicals, You Get What You Give. And there's a line in it that says, you've got a reason to live. And the next line is, what's the next line? Something like keep on going or whatever, but it was, you've got a reason to live. And there was, because of her medication, I had 83 diazepam tablets in this house. And I thought, a bit too much of a temptation when you're not feeling good. Get rid of them. So I took them all, took them around to the pharmacy, all gone, cleared out the house. And then I thought, why do I like that song so much? And I remembered it was Deborah Searle when we saw her at the ICC about 9 years ago, and she did that brilliant speech about rowing across the Atlantic. She'd heard the same song. She related to a "Don't give up." That was the line. Don't give up. You've got a reason to live. That's what it was. So it's, for her, it's don't give up, and me, it's you've got a reason to live. I thought, right, I'm going to watch Deborah Searle tomorrow. Started Deborah Searle. Next thing that I do, I start doing a playlist, because the music was going to inspire me. Started to do my dream boards, which were up on the wall. I had one, the 10-year one. Right, what am I going to do? So I reverted to childhood for about 3 weeks and just started writing all my stuff down. I've been sent this lovely journal, wrote in my journal and cleared all my head out, what I want to do. Went on the internet, cut loads of pictures up, stuck them on my dream board, played this thing. I still listen to it now. I update it, but I still listen to the same music. And that started to give me a foundation for what I wanted to do. And immediately I did that, my numbers improved at the club and the money started to go up. Immediately, like that week. You know, and I now track all my money, and you know, obviously I want to beat every amount that I've done this year, and I've beaten every month. And in April, I beat it by £1, but it was £1. I didn't give a shit. You know, some of them it's like £2,000. That was £1. I still beat the bloody thing, and that was it really. And I rewrote my syllabus. I thought, how do I give better service to my students? What is it I'm trying to do? Looked at a martial arts, what you do, and rather than lots of people maybe watch this, they think it's kicking and punching and that type of stuff, and they can see the physical benefits of it. I realized that the number one, there are 6 reasons why people do martial arts. There's the self-defense aspect, there's a sport aspect, there's a personal development aspect, there's a fitness aspect, there's a social aspect, and there's history and tradition. And they will do them for one of those 6 reasons. Why do people train in martial arts? And then I thought, right, okay, I need to section this system down. So we work on the mind, the stand-up fighting, the ground fighting, and the weaponry. Broke it into each section, rewrote the syllabus, boom, it's gone brilliantly. So that was it, and it was. But I believe in everything I'm doing.
You've got purpose. You found the purpose of it. You found your purpose in it,
and that relates to what the things that I want to do next year as well. You know, so purpose is the key.
Purpose is everything. Andy, do you know what? I didn't know a lot of that, and I just people talk about personal development, don't they? They think it's rah, rah, oh, I'm motivated, but personal development is when the shit hits the fan, that you can pull out all those tools that you've learned or used or taught people and actually use them on yourself. And, you know, I'm a bit emotional listening to you, because I think you are the perfect example of that, of actually walking the talk, if you like.
I had a teacher, and he had this great phrase. He said, he's a Buddhist, and he said to me many years ago, he said, philosophy is great if it works when you stub your toe.
Absolutely. Love it. It's absolute truth. And some people think they've got this, you know, that, oh, I've got this nirvana. I'm like, well, let's see what happens when your shit hits the fan. If you manage to work your way through it and still have that calm. So thank you for sharing that story. And I really can feel your purpose in your business. And I've been part of your business. I've been to your martial arts classes. And as you were saying, you're 6, my head was going, well, what did I do it for? Yeah, fitness. I did it for fitness. But I tell you, I was surrounded by your people that time. I came for, I don't know, about a year possibly.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking that sense of community, that sense of that will never let you down. They'll come in all weathers. They'll open up the place if you're late. They literally need it. They need that sense of connection to themselves, to other people, that being part of a, you know, we're tribal, aren't we? It's almost like you've got a tribe there, without a doubt. And I remember thinking that and feeling that.
There's a big sign there that we put up during the lockdown. We refurbed it, spent a few thousand refurbishing the place, and it says, welcome to your second home.
Ah, lovely. That's exactly how it felt, actually. Yeah. You know, there was no airs and graces, if you know, because people are, you know, throwing each other around and, you know, expressing themselves in different ways. So I'm really, really glad that you found your purpose in it now, because I think there was always a lot of purpose for them, but now it feels like you understand it as well. So So your mission is obviously to beat your money each month. What is the so if you're working on purpose and that feeling of satisfaction, fulfillment, you know, I've got a real saying that success without fulfillment is failure. And you've been there by the sound of things. I've definitely been there several times. Until you find that, you don't really know it, do you? So people say, oh, I love my work. I'm thinking, do you? Do you really love it? It's not until you have to prove that you love it, then you realize you love it. So what's the next step? Because it doesn't sound like it's money, Andy. So although you're focused on the figures at the moment, if you on the passion, what is the next step for you? Where are you going? What's on that board?
I started there were some things that were troubling me, you know, the things that we do. I have a lot of skills that I can share with people, and I have a lot of experience now that I can share with people. So I was starting to think about men's mental health. How could I be a champion for men's mental health? What could I do? So it started with a question, which was, why do so many men commit suicide? And we know that it's depending on who you listen to, 2/3 to 3/4 commit suicide. You know, it's 1 every 75 minutes commit suicide. So I started to look at that question, and I started to look at a much broader canvas palette, if you like. So I thought, what happens in a day? So there's 18 people, 17 and a half die each day. What else? So there's 6 people die on the roads every day. There's 46 people die of heart attacks every day. 640 people die of cancer every day. But then you start to look at how many murders are there a day. There's 2 murders on average every day. Sexual assaults are insane. It's like over 2,000 sexual assaults every day, according to Rape Crisis. So I'm like, hang on, who's doing all this then? So then you go and have a look at the statistics, and you find out that 93% of all convicted murderers are male. And then you find out that 98% of all convicted sex offenders are male, which makes me wonder who the 2% of women are, to be honest. But, you know, where's that happen? So you think, hang on, so they're committing suicide, they're murdering people and they're raping people. The fuck is wrong with these people? You know, so my species, what is wrong with you? And then you start to look at a broader canvas, even go further than that. You start to look at gambling addiction, you know, start to look at sexual addiction, you look at porn addiction, you look at addicted to foods, then you look at the companies that are doing stuff. So I don't know if we're going to come up with this, but this is my book of the year. That's it. Ultra processed people. It talks about the ultra processed foods. So anything that you see in a packet is ultra processed. So you know, I make all my own bread or buy it from a baker's now, because if you look at a list of ingredients in your really nice loaves that you can get from the supermarket, there's about 30 of them. There should be 4. What's that about? So you know the phrase where it says the greatest thing since sliced bread. Well, sliced bread came around 1923, so it's been around 100 years. It's the worst thing ever invented. Why is that? Because as soon as you slice bread, it starts going stale. Every slice starts going stale. So how do we stop that? Put emulsifiers in it, stop it going stale. So now our food becomes ultra processed. And if our food is ultra processed, we are not counting the calorie as a calorie. We're counting it as something that is not even food in lots of cases. It's a substance that's made to look like food, taste a bit like food. But if you start to become more aware of it, there's not that much difference between a chocolate pudding and a curry. You think, what's going on there then? So the food we eat, not good. If you look at the opioid crisis in America, it's the same in the UK. If you look at the NHS, complete bloody mess. You can't get anything there, so you have to go private, which is what the Tories wanted in the first place, going around ruining our country. And this is, you think, I can start to see why we're in a mess, actually. So what is it that I know that would work better? Well, eat better for a start. So I've lost a stone since the summer. Just really, I do intermittent fasting, 16/8. So, I ate an hour ago. I won't eat until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning now. Do that. That's a pretty easy thing to do. Eat better, make your own bread. Real simple stuff. And that's just part of it. So I'm in the process of doing the research, and then I'll write the book next year that'll go with it.
And then what will it be then?
And then from there, it will be a course that I teach as well, and start to develop that as well.
And what is the aim of that then? To achieve what?
To help people not be fucked up, really.
Is that what it's called? I'm going to give you a gift here. So I accidentally said at something I was at last week, somebody said, who do you help? I said, well, most of my clients are stuck as fuck. It just came straight out of my mouth. I'm like, why didn't I have that when I was doing all my branding stuff? But yeah, it's interesting because then when you put the social demands in that, so if you look at social media,
yeah, absolutely. That's another one. Yeah,
that was crazy. And I mean, in our generation, I mean, we're slightly different in age, but actually we were the generation that didn't have social media when we were in our early 20s. Yeah. And I look at it now and I think, God, the pressure. Like we had a lot of pressure just from going to the shops or reading magazines, but like it's constant, isn't it? So it's a completely different world. So they're definitely
it's the ability to control your own thoughts, isn't it? And most people don't have that ability. No, so in that situation with Kirsty last year, my ability to control my thoughts was key. Yeah. Because if I didn't do that, I never drank, I never took drugs. I mean, I'm lucky I don't do that anyway. I didn't go down that path. Plenty do, because grief is personal. I know you lost your parents at a young age. Grief is personal, and everybody grieves however they want. I don't care how they grieve. You've got to get through it though, because there is something on the other side. That phrase, everything happens for a reason, total bollocks, utter nonsense. Doesn't. Absolute crap, that is. You tell me why my wife died. Bollocks. I won't accept that. Everything happens for a reason. Things happen and then you deal with them, but not for a reason. Not going to affect you. Rubbish. And you only know that when you've experienced extreme emotional pain that is as physical. I felt it the day after she died. I was scared because I felt the pain. And I was like, shit, I need to get hold of this. And for me, the crying was important. I had to let it out early. I didn't want to be keeping it in. I tried to go to work after 3 weeks, useless. My brain didn't work probably for 6 months, but I could teach. I knew that bit. But I probably taught a bit weird, to be honest. And I could feel the emotions.
So it was a process. Your body knows how to do it for a start.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was it really, and so I will help as many people as I can in the way, and I'll find a tribe. It's one thing I learned about books. People will read anything if you find the right tribe, and then it's just marketing then.
Maybe you got your tribe quite close to home. Maybe they'll give you some clues.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so. Well, it's been lovely to have you, Andy. If I can do anything to help with that, of course, you know where I am, 100%. Yeah, I look forward to seeing the book.
Thanks for letting me rant.
You can always rant. Fascinating. Some people rant and they're boring, and there are others that rant and they're just quite fascinating. I sit in awe. Yeah, I love your ability to take on board facts and data. I don't really have that. I'm more about the feelings. I'm a girl, and I suppose I know it's boys, but yeah, data and facts and things like that.
I use the feeling to remember the fact.
Yeah, oh, interesting.
So an example is that Richard II. Did you watch Game of Thrones?
No.
Oh, well, Game of Thrones is wonderful. But there's a king called Joffrey in there who's a right little arse, and he's based on Richard II. Richard II reigned from 1377 to 1399, and the fascinating facts about him is he was the king when the Peasants' Revolt came out in 1381, and he was also the only king that we are it's apocryphal. We're not sure if it actually happened, but he was taken to Pontefract Castle, and he was killed by having a red hot poker shoved up his arse, which will do the job, I understand.
That's the fact you brought.
But as you do that, the feeling, you go, oh, there's your feeling. Yeah.
Too funny.
I better leave with that one then, eh?
Be memorised for when people. That's what you'll be remembered for. The red hot about the red hot poker up your ass.
Yeah, there you go.
That's too funny. Oh, Andy, thank you. And it's lovely to see you smiling. You know, adversity shows us who we are, and it shows us the people around us, and we either find our way or we find a way out. And so I'm really glad you found your way, and I'm really, really grateful you coming.
Thank you, let me share. Nice to see you. See you soon.
Thank you, darling. Take care.
Bye.